Hi, my name is Cynthia Lane, and my category that I'm reviewing today is on fictional history. And before I tell you about my book, I'm going to tell you how I selected it, or perhaps how it selected me. I went to work a couple of Saturdays ago, and I was feeling a little upset because I hadn't had time to get to the library, and by the time I would get out of work, the library would be closed. That was on a Saturday, which meant that I wouldn't be able to get back to the library until Monday. It just so happened that the place I was working at that evening had a guest writer there, and so I was curious. I went to see what type of books they had, and lo and behold, she and her partner, who was also a writer, specialized in children's books, and I saw a fictional history book. This is called Living on Sisu, and it has to do with the 1913 Union Copper Strike tragedy. The writer is Deborah Frontiera, and she won the Purple Dragonfly Book Award for this book. Now, before I begin, there is something I would like to read. It says, the Finnish word Sisu does not have an exact English translation. It might be defined as a quality people have, giving them the courage, determination, and strength to make it through life's most difficult situations, or, as defined by Dr. Robert Nara, a characteristic that takes over when determination and fortitude run out. This has to do with a young girl. She is 12 and 13 during the time this book is written, and it's written in a journal type fashion or diary type fashion, you could say either. And her family are immigrants from Finland. She's the first in her family to have been born in the United States, and they live in a little town called Calumet, Michigan, which their main industry is copper mines. And as I stated earlier, this has to do with the 1913 tragedy that occurred in that area. It has to do with the time that the unions are taking over, and her father initially is very opposed to the union, but because of different things that, different events that occur, he slowly changes his mind and becomes supportive of the union, as does her mother. She doesn't have too many friends, and her best friend's father won't allow her to see her any longer because he is adamantly opposed to the union. They had it pretty hard to begin with, and once they went on strike, then it was even harder on them. They had been planning for some time to eventually be able to buy a farm, move to the farm, and raise their own crops and have a few animals that would supply them with eggs and milk and so on. Because of the strike, they were having to live off the money that they had saved. So it made it even more difficult on them. Her older brother also worked in the mines with her dad, so that meant that the two incomes that they had previously, they now had to do without. Plus, she had an older brother that works on a farm out of town. She's very industrious. She happens to go to a grocer, has a small like mercantile store, and asks if there was anything she could do. At one time, she would go and run errands for him, and in exchange, he would give her candy, which she would take home and share with her siblings. But now that times are hard, she's a little bit more desperate. And this is a very kind man, and he's taken a liking to her. So he does give her different jobs to do, and in exchange, he pays her in flour or sugar or potatoes or other things that actually benefit her family. As time continues and they need money even more, she goes to him and asks if there's anybody that he knows whom she can help out in their home as a maid or do some type of cleaning service. And he gives her a note and tells her to go to an address and speak to the lady of the house. She does this, and as it turns out, it's his own home and his wife that he has written the note to. So they're very kind to her, and they pay her what at that time was very well, and she lives there during the week. She goes to school early in the morning, and at one time she does decide that she's not going to go to school, but she'll continue studying at home, at least for the time being. Her family isn't very happy with this, but again, times are hard, and so they agree that she can do this as long as she promises that she'll return to school eventually. She has one other friend that she sees as often as possible. And Christmas is coming up. There's an event that's going to occur in a theater there, and it's a simple event, but it's something to uplift spirits during a time that there's not very much to be very happy about. So they go, and everybody's having a good time, but somebody starts screaming fire, and there's a mad rush to the exits. Her mother grabs her and her sisters, and they manage to get out by a different means. However, they find later there were many people that were trampled to death, one which happened to be her friend. So she takes this very hard, and she goes through a lot of depression from this. Fortunately, about this time, the father of her other friend relents, and he agrees that the girls can start seeing each other again. The strike ends, but not without a lot of problems. There's a lot of misunderstanding and a lot of bad feelings between the company and those people that have joined the union. But they finally give in, and they feel that perhaps it had all been a waste, because although the company has agreed to pay them slightly more, they have cut their hours. So basically, they have come out making about the same amount. As the story ends, the family is again trying to save money, so that they have high hopes of someday still being able to get their farm. And as it turns out, this very nice man, Mr. Edwards, and his wife had at one time had a child that they lost, and the child would have been about Emma's age. They talk to her father and say that if he agrees, once that they move away to their farm, Emma can stay living with them. She will continue to do housework for them in exchange for room and board, and one day a week she'll work at the store, which she'll gain $1 a week, and at that time that was a lot of money. So her father was very happy about this as long as she continued her studies. Mr. Edwards was a fairly influential man in that area, and he informed the father that he could probably even arrange it so that she could get a scholarship and go to college. And that's about how the story ends. But it's a really nice story. It's a real tearjerker at times. Like I said, it is fictional, but it does have pictures, a few pictures throughout the book, showing how possibly a young girl Emma's age might have looked, or her family may have appeared at that time. Of course, being fictional, this isn't actually her family, but it is a Finnish family. And there's another picture of a young girl that would have been about her age. So I highly recommend the book. It's very good. Deborah Frontiera did a great job in writing it. And because I bought it from her directly, I was able to get a signed copy, which I'm really excited about. And that's all. I would say this is would be written for a young adult. Miss Frontiera actually told me also perhaps 12 and up. Thank you very much.